Ladies and gentlemen, I certainly have a good one for you today. Really goes to show just how a lot of these people are living in a completely different dimension. It's not really of this earth. It's quite difficult to know exactly where they're at, but they're certainly not living in any sort of semblance of like reality. Let's say that. So we talked about it on the show, or not on the show, on my previous videos about this Strange World movie and it not really getting a return despite them spending so much money. It's on all accounts looking to be a box office flop, as they would say. Now, some would argue that this is indicative of like, excuse me, the direction that Disney's going. Okay. You're starting to see obviously the pattern if you especially consider where they were with Chapek. Not saying that Chapek himself caused this, because he's complicit just like Iger is, as far as I'm concerned. I'm specifically referencing this whole thing in Florida with the bill, which we discussed many times on this channel, and how Disney really came out and drew their line in the sand as far as where exactly they're going to stand on some issues. And they wanted to make it more and more apparent as far as what type of content they were going to make, not necessarily beating the audience over the head, though you can certainly argue with some of their material they're doing that, but with all this hyper emphasis of representation and all these other different types of deals. And those folks that generally they're catering to, definitely with this next movie. And again, I'm not even saying that the movie itself hyper emphasizes whatever gay stuff or whatever. I do know that the promotional stuff, certainly one of the main talking points, well, this is the first gay yada yada, because Disney keeps having these first gay things. It's kind of, I don't know how many more of those they can actually have, but nonetheless, those people were certainly not enough to carry this film. I think we saw the same situation with the Bros thing, that movie that came out. It's just if that's kind of the demographic that you're targeting, they're not even coming out in support. And even if they did, you're not really going to see a bigger return if that's your focus. So the guy that we're going to talk about today that's in a completely different dimension is this person that is acting as if there's something special going on. So let me explain. So this thread you guys saw on my YouTube, if you want to look at it, I'm on Twitter, but I posted the same thread on my YouTube community wall as well as my Facebook. So somebody, no matter where you're watching this, you saw this. And I spoke about how with, it's a long thread. I can't possibly go through everything without just switching gears on the entire video. But basically, I talk about how there's a lot more power than people that are like libertarian or even conservative, that there's a lot more power that they have that they don't actually utilize in terms of navigating culture and navigating entertainment. And this person says right here, you got your analysis wrong. Disney has always been a service you tune in to turn your brain off. But now that they're introducing more shows with actual nuance and depth, they're isolating their fans that have low IQs. So basically, if you're not into what they're putting out here with this Andor stuff, for those that for whatever reason are paying for Disney Plus to watch this or being bored to death, but he says they're isolating their fans that have low IQs and taking the HBO route of storytelling over money. Okay, so insulting audience. This isn't certainly anything new. It's basically saying if you're not with this or this isn't favorable. He's looking at the fact that Disney has lost, because he's referring to the post where I talk about Disney losing on the streaming services, losing $1.5 billion. And they don't even think that it's going to be profitable until like 2 years from now, potentially. Now, with this guy, he is saying that, well, you guys are the dumb ones. The smarter people understand there's just more depth and more nuance. You can't just turn your brain off because something that Disney's putting out with these shows. And I know that he posted about it in one of the quote tweets, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, right here, where he's like, my point proven by Andor's ratings. Disney Plus subscribers that normally turn their brain off to watch Iron Man kill Thanos got surprised and turned off when they actually had to think, as if Andor is this. And again, I haven't seen it. You couldn't pay me to watch it, but apparently it is so intricate. It is so detailed, so much depth to it that you just have to be smart to really understand and grasp. And that's why they're bleeding money. And look, there's a lot of different factors. Well, not many, but there's some different factors that go into why Disney's actively losing money. A lot of it does have to do with the direction it is they're going with the content, bad business practices, as far as really Hollywood in general is operating on a big house of cards. Everybody there, for the most part, is overpaid here. Production costs are there, and they're, like, for example, the animated movie costs $180 million, they said, if I'm not mistaken, to make, which is insane. I'm not saying the animation has to be cheap, but there are some people that get money off the top. And we ain't even talking about like marketing and stuff. We know people getting money off the top, bunch of red tape, all sorts of hoops that folks got to jump through. And this is why it costs that much to probably make a lot of make a film as such. But of course, I reject this nonsensical notion that these movies or anything for that matter or shows, it's the nuance, right? They love that term, right? These people are oblivious. But what it boils down to is that they can't possibly think that they're the problem. It's really what it boils down to. So this whole idea that they're talking about storytelling over money is nonsense. Nobody's in the business of not making money. I know that, and really I talk a little bit about that stuff in that thread that this guy responded to with the whole BlackRock and ESG stuff, and how, until you see an effort really made in large by people that, let's say, are non-leftists to just withhold funds from Disney, I think it's not necessarily worthwhile to hyper-emphasize, let's say, that, because you haven't done what it takes, and individuals haven't done what it takes to really see the change. They're limiting themselves, and what they do is act as if it's inevitable, which is what, I was specifically referring to. It's not that, well, you shouldn't know BlackRock or BSG is a thing. No, that's not what I'm saying. By the way, they lost, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of money on the previous investments over the last year. Anyway, but no, that's not what it is I'm saying. I'm saying that if you look to it like, well, Disney loses money, right? Or something, or any movie or something lose money, and let's say there's not like an immediate change, and you say, well, that's because they're getting this other fund, so it's not about making money. I think that's not really considering everything. No business is in the business of not making money unless they're like maybe a nonprofit, but even then they still have to make some money in terms of their operational costs. So this is a myth. The storytelling over money. And no, you don't have to sacrifice. Yeah, you're going to insult your fans by, and this guy, I'm sure, doesn't work for Disney, but yeah, if your approach was ever, yeah, well, the people that don't like me or were previously customers of mine and now are not customers of mine are low IQ. If you said that, yeah, it's a nice insult to your fans, and I wouldn't recommend that you do that. Nonetheless, they're not in the business of losing money. Not over a longer period of time, and we'll see how long this sustains. Are they one Spider-Man movie away? Though I know they don't make all the money from Spider-Man stuff. Are they one Spider-Man movie away from everybody just forgetting what this piece of crap company has been doing over the last years? I don't know, but it has nothing to do with the fact that their stuff is more nuanced. Disney's the same guys that make these piece of crap comic books that I used to review on my channel all the time. There's nothing about those stories. What are you going to sit up here and tell me as comics continue to go in the opposite direction? Of course, I have to always mention this because there'll be someone in the comics that, well, comics made more money than they ever had. That is not true. In terms of definitely unit sales, they're selling less. So I go watch my previous videos. I've broken down the exact numbers, and also breaking down how, when considering how the state of the comic book industry is in, a lot of these numbers are taking into account Japanese comics, also known as mangas, and that's very, very disingenuous, right? So nonetheless, you're not going to sit up here and tell me that Ta-Nehisi Coates' dog crap comic books are somehow more nuanced than what Chris Claremont's X-Men or New Mutants or something like that. Like, get out of my face, man. That has nothing to do with nothing. It's just that people are not enthusiastic about the project, and they're so committed to this audience of people that would care so much about all these, definitely the activism element of it. And that's just, they don't have enough numbers. And this is why I say it's a white pill, not a black one. When you see these companies go, let's say, south, and maybe run maybe a franchise you love to the ground. But there's plenty to be optimistic about. There's alternatives, of course, but there's plenty to be optimistic about because you see how this is not inevitable. And you need to understand that you guys have more power than you give yourselves credit for. Do not listen to these black pillars like, well, it's not about making money. It doesn't matter. Who cares? Like, shut up. No, like, get going on somewhere. Go sit your punk tail in the corner somewhere and just, suck if that's something that you want to do. But get that negative energy away from us. You guys have a lot of power, more than you give yourselves credit for. I always say, y'all fund them, but they don't fund you. They don't go to your institutions. They don't go to your brands and companies and businesses and actively fund you if they consider you the ideological enemy, right? The difference is you do. That's all. So as they go down and more people say, you know what? No, we see this sustain for a longer period of time. These companies got one or two choices. Disney is the one that can go to the ground the fastest because they don't have like what AT&T has and like communications or Amazon or what it is. They don't have that. They just have strictly entertainment properties for the most part that are all elective, right? So they can be the first one. They might be one of the richer ones, but they certainly one of the easiest ones that can get up out of here. Let's see what happens. Let's see. Let them commit themselves to, like this guy, an audience who thinks, well, we're just so sophisticated and you just don't understand. Okay, bet. Y'all not understand it. Or let us not understand why you go running it into the ground. Congrats.